Hello and welcome back to Duro3 YouTube channel. In today's video we're having a look at the differences between a KR-400 over there and a EMR-400 or a Fukner 400 or any of those other rebadged versions. So I'm just panning back here to show you the wide view. I'm just going to mount you onto my stand so I can actually have both hands, when I get lined up, I have both hands to do what I want to do. So I just might move this over a bit, just a bit, might move that a bit more. Oh, do that's heavy. That's a bit better. Okay, let me adjust. I had to do a wide shot to physically get it in. Okay, rightio, we shall move forward. Okay, so the purpose of this video is to show the differences between the two, being the fact that the EMR-400 is only a 0.5 wind area and the KR-400 is a 1 wind area rotator. So that's the big differences to start with, and I'm going to show you other differences between the two. So basically, I'll start with the controller for starters. The controller is different for starters, which is not a biggie anyway. You can use different, two different controllers. KR-400. This is a Alinco EMR-400. This one is. So yeah. So that's that out of the road. So let's look at some basic differences between the two. Number one, we'll have a look at the actual physical ring gear. Okay, this is the EMR-400 ring gear. This is the KR-400 ring gear. As you can see, one fits inside the other basically, so it is actually smaller in diameter. It has a different pitch of teeth. This is a 1.25. This is a one module. That's a 1.25. This is a 1 module. That's one thing. All the bolts on the EMR are either M6 or quarter. On the KR-400 they are 8mm. I can prove that to the verniers. 5.892mm, 8mm, M8. So another big difference. That includes the base mounting bolts, the clamping bolts of the KR-400, and the same applies to the base mounting bolts, the ring gear mounting, bearing ring mounting bolts. So they're all 6mm, or depending on where they've come from, or 1/4 inch. So yeah, that's another one of the main differences. Okay, we shall look at the. Trying to get myself. I have a big mess here, which is going to be pretty hard to do, but whatever, we'll try. So housings, top housings, KR-400, EMR-400. One will fit inside the other. I've got a few probably side on. So there you go, that's another difference. You can see the differences from the side, not quite as high. Again, 1/4 inch bolts or 6mm depending. M8. On the side we have the top housing is different as well. Take that off there. There's your top housing. Friction brake is actually attached to the top housing of the KR-400. Again, both the gears are in the similar positions. The first gear, so plastic on it with a steel insert. So that's the differences there. Again, 1 module, 1.25 module in the gear pitch. Okay, another big difference. I just don't want to lose that. So the gear thicknesses is also another big difference. So EMR-400, KR-400. Again, here we have verniers. I'll just zero that. We have basically a 2mm gear for the KR-400 and only a 1.5 gear, 1.5, 1.6 gear thickness for the EMR-400 or the Fukner 400 or any of the 400s. So I'll just stick that back on there so I don't lose it. Let's have that one there as well. The main housing for the Fukner 400 has, I might take this all out now, don't lose that, has all the gear shafts solidly mounted into the base housing, and also has the potentiometer and pod drive gear in there as well. KR-400 does not. Everything is sitting on a steel chassis. So basically, we'll just put that back over there for a second. So, which will take all the gears off this one as well. Whoops, I took the shaft out of the shaft. This is actually a later version. I should say, this is one of the latest, probably one of the late, yeah, the latest version would have been this one, which has the pressed out fittings. So some people might be saying, oh, the other ones are different. Yeah, the other one, there is some other different versions. I may even show you. So some of the early versions were totally flat, and you had, so this has got the raised piece in it. This is the totally flat version. Same thickness in chassis. Everything else is the same, but they used to put spaces underneath. With this one, they have all pressed out, so I don't lose it. Here's the shafts, and has a plate in the bottom to physically. So this is one of the later versions. This was actually dated somewhere. I saw a date somewhere. Here we are, it's on here. The 4th month, 93. So that's another big difference, and you can see the difference in the plate sizes. Everything is just smaller on this one, bigger on this one. Okay, so that's got the you know, and the fact that the KR-400 has a terminal block on here which is covered, which has got a terminal cover over it that the other one has. I haven't got one of those here to show you, but basically everything's much bigger. And there's guides on the bottom, so we'll move that over there for the present moment. The bearing rings. Righto, KR-400, EMR-400. They actually fit inside one another. Or if I put it behind here, it just disappears, whichever way. Everything is bigger and smaller. Put that back over here again. Mast clamps. Again, EMR-400 mast clamp. KR-400 mast clamp, very different, very similar in height and structure, you know, the widths and everything, but main thing is 8mm mounting bolts and clamping bolts, only 6mm or quarter mounting bolts. So that's the difference there in between that. The motors themselves and braking system, KR-400, as we had with this top here, the KR-400, it sits through and lines up with the gear when I get in the right position, like that. And we have a brake pad which is sitting on the top, and they're an off-axis motor, so it lifts up and down on and off the brake. Again, we have a top chassis and a bottom chassis, as I showed you. So that's that part of that. So it has a frame, chassis and everything else. And of course the potentiometer on this one, there's the terminal block and everything. So the potentiometer sits up through here. And then the pot gears onto there. And we have the divider gear onto there. So I'm trying to get through this as quick as possible, make sure that's not so boring for everybody. So the motors themselves, when you put them side by side, are very similar size. Whether the internals are the same is debatable. I'd have to physically pull these apart, but the brake on the EMR-400 and the Fukners is actually part of, and pinion is actually part of, it has a it's actually mounted directly. There's a little plastic brake base, I guess you'd say. It was clipped into the top of these. There's these 3 holes. It's the same manufacturer as the motor. There's 3 holes there, and this little plastic black plastic thing, if you can see it there. It's actually clipped in there, and there's a cork pad on top of that. And then we have this disc and pinion assembly all in one piece, very similar to what they used to have on the KR-400. The early version KR-400 had a very shrouded, a shrouded thing. Again, pinion gear is one module, 1.0 module, and this one is 1.25. So again, both off-axis motors. They all lift up when you kick it in the guts. That will get it going. There's only 3 mounting points on this. We technically have 3 mounting points on here as well, but it's actually screwed to the actual motor. There's only 4 short ones onto the mounting plate. So there's just a whole lot of differences between these rotators. So basically, you know, it's just a comparison to show you the differences between the two. There's some major differences, you know, being the fact that that's only a 1 wind area, and 0.5 wind area, and this is a 1 wind area. So, and that's all because of the size of everything, you know, and you know, the bolts and everything that's all relative to those calculations. So basically, I think we've covered everything in this comparison between the EMR-400, or the Alinco EMR-400. There's also a Diamond 400, I don't know what the number of that one was, a Fukner 400. These are just all rebadged rotators, and I think Fukner was the manufacturer, and they just rebadged whoever wanted it. Even Dick Smith had them, different versions. Some of them had potentiometers. Some had potentiometers in them, and some come out without potentiometers, had a different controller, and they were like a 3-wire version that was controlled by a basic controller. So there was a few ones around it, but the basics of this were the same. The controller was the same, the rotator was the same, but they just had no potentiometer, no feedback. Everything else seemed to be the same, just different controllers. And there's other versions, smaller versions of these around too as well, but even smaller, so you can't classify those at either. So they're like TV rotators. But this is a basic direct comparison between a KR-400, and also I've seen some people trying to sell these EMR-400s as even KR-400s, G-400s. They are not a KR-400 or a G-400. So when Yaesu purchased Kenpro, they just changed the prefix from a KR-400 to a G-400. So basically, KR-400, Fukner 400, FU-400 or EMR-400, completely different rotators. Rightio, I think it's enough for me of waffling on about the differences between rotators and how some people are trying to sell one thing as it's not. So, okay, have a good one, and I shall see you next project or next video. Bye.